But others like John Dorn, different kind of cancer, but what a warrior. He's up in Renton. I thought, what I'd like to do is talk about a verse of the Bible that applies to every one of us, because we think, wow, here's our brother, here's our sister, and they're going through this. But what happens is we lose track of where we are. In Psalm 90 and verse 12, Moses, this is the Psalm of Moses, he said, teach us to number our days, that we may present to you a heart of wisdom. Now the problem with that, of course, is we don't know how many days we got. How in the world can you count when it's impossible to know? And so I began thinking about that, and then how that applies to everybody. And this is a really personal one. I've taken it personally. The Bible means for us to take it personally, rather than, yeah, well, that's an interesting principle. It's us. So this idea of teach us to number our days not only was written by Moses, it's the only psalm attributed to Moses. And as we think about the words that are involved in this, that he's not talking about how I led through the wilderness in the battle of Rephidim and we stood up there. He's not talking in this psalm about that. He's not talking about a nation builder. Well, we got into the land and got past the Edomites, and that's not the direction of this psalm. But he's talking as an old man viewing a transitory life. You go, Moses reflects on God's majesty and eternity versus man's mortality. We're going to look at us today. And by that, we're going to be not only holding Vince and Diana in our prayers more ardently, we're going to start looking at ourselves more carefully. And Vince had talked about it, and I'll share things both from him and from John Dorn. He said, preacher's son, he prayed all his life. He said, more focused now. Well, guess what? Absolutely. Every one of us. Guess what Jesus was doing in the garden? He's praying and sweat praying so hard you're sweating. He comes to the disciples and says, can you not watch with me 1 hour? I'm talking with Glenda. National average of religious people pray for an hour. The national average is 1 minute. Okay, we're done. But really religious people, man, maybe they go, if it's 1 minute a day, that's 7 minutes a week. Really highly religious people, maybe 5-minute prayers. Exceptionally, 7 minutes. And Jesus said, look, I am hours before I die and tortured. Can't you pray an hour? Man, we're not very good in praying a handful of minutes. And Moses said, we can do better if we look at the number of days. And so as I think about that kind of thing, teach us to number our days. In Psalm 90 and verse 10, is for the days of our life, they contain 70, King James, that is 70 years, or by reason of strength, 80, 80 years. I thought, I'm already on borrowed time. I said, what does borrowed mean? Who you borrowing? You're not borrowing it from anybody, but here's kind of the expected time. You're already past that. My mom died 1 year older than I am now. My dad died when he was 49. My brother died a couple of years beyond where I am now. Nobody in my family lives 300 years. Nobody in anybody's family lives 300 years. But we kind of live that way. Well, I'm young and pretty soon, and well, I've got things to do. And so Moses is getting us to look at our watch, I'll say, on our wrist. In the U.S., men's average lifespan is 76 years. Women, it's 81. But the reality is that's generally true. That's not absolutely true, because it depends on a lot of things. What country you live in what availability you have for health care, whether you're a man or a woman, and what kind of lifestyle you live. Hey, they're really crazy people don't generally live as long as people say, hey, I made better choices. Now, in that, you say, yeah, but I got time. I asked Mark Burrell, Mark, how long do you expect to live? And he's weighing that. I've known of children. Joe Pisano's first child lived 8 days. I did a memorial for a little girl. Went into a hospital room. A number of us Christians are there, and then goes into surgery. 5 years old. She died. Did not expect that. Children that I've known 14 years old, 16 years old. Young adults. I baptized almost everybody in the C family. And Lee C., killed by a drunk driver, 21. Glenn C., I think it was 50, because that's what he was shooting for. But I've done memorials for people 70, 80, or 90. So now how old are you going to be? There's no way of really knowing. Even when the doctors say, and here was Karen Bartle, extremely aggressive form of cancer. They said you got, just a short while. 12 years later, she's still going, thank you. Pam Farrar, that some of you knew, first person I ever baptized down in Sumner. Doctor says you have 6 weeks. She lived 9 years. Nobody knows. And so as you think about that, in Ecclesiastes 9 and verse 12, that's what the wise man said. Just like fish caught in a trap. No man knows his time. And so as you think about that, well, do you have 5 years or 5 hours? You can't know driving down the freeway that some nut doesn't run a red light, that they're high on something, and whack. You can't know that. So how should we live? The Bible says, teach us to number our days. What that really means is, since we can't actually know the accurate number, is to live with an awareness of the shortness and the value of life. It means to count your days, not so much as just count them, but make every day count. Is what you're doing today the best use of your time? What about tomorrow? What about next Saturday? It makes us aware of, I'm just, Otis Redding, sitting on the dock of the bay wasting time. Life is really short. A nephew of mine by marriage, he was helping me yesterday, and we were talking about this kind of thing of life, and he says, that song Don't Blink? It's by Kenny Chesney. You can look it up on YouTube. He said there's an old man that was being interviewed at 102, and they asked, what's the secret of life? And he said, don't blink. And then the song goes on to explain what is meant by that sense. He said, you're 6 years old and take a nap, and you wake up and you're 25, and your sweetheart of high school has become your wife. Why? Don't blink. Life goes that fast. For young people, it feels, oh man, summer's forever. Man, phew, it's 26 seconds and you're past that. He said, don't blink. You just might miss your babies growing up and turning in to moms and dads. And the next thing you know, your better half of 50 years is there in bed. And you're praying, God, take you instead. Don't blink. The song says, trust me, friends, your 100 years goes by faster than you think. Don't blink. So the idea is, as you're looking at life, you might think that, well, it just goes on forever. But you start putting first things first. Because when the hourglass runs out of sand, you can't turn it over and start again. Don't blink. It's here today and gone tomorrow. We're living in this world. Don't blink. Because life goes faster than you think. Wow. Because I remember I was a little kid. And then I somehow was a teen, we got married, and boom. Because life happens that way. But he's saying, don't blink. Pay attention. Be thoughtful to the time that you have. And it's the difference between filling time and fulfilling your purpose. What can you do? What does God want you to do with your life this year? Don't blink. And so a couple days ago, I thought, you know what? I'm going to choose to apply that personally because I want to see what it feels like. And I've chosen, not morbidly, but I said, Paul, you have given yourself 1 year. The reality is, I don't know if I have 12 hours. Right? I don't know if I have 12 days. I don't know if I have 12 years. You can't know that. So I thought, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start counting down. I'm talking to Jeff. They have countdown apps because it's somewhere I'll lose track of the right number. And so for me personally, today is number 363. You say, Paul, you're just being flippant. Absolutely not. I want to be serious. The Bible said, teach us to number our days. And so each day I want to weigh, is this the way I would like to spend today? Yesterday, our house, like everybody's house, you got a bunch of things you need to do to it. And so my nephew, Craig Miser, come down and he's helping me on projects that there was 5 of them that's really beyond my skill set, and he's just being tremendous. And so Glenda's working on Bible lesson. I'm outside working on projects. Talked to Vincent the other day. He's out, I'll say, weed whacking blackberry vines. There's things that is good to do. If I were to just last 12 months, I need to have this house repaired because Glenda's not going to be able to do that. And I said to Craig and to Glenda, if this were my last day, how would you want to spend it? Doing just what I was doing with the people I wanted to do it with. Don't blink. And so teach us to number our days. So I want to look at a handful of things along this line. That is, the Bible talks about this day is the day the Lord has made. So since he has, what do? Then live today. That is, don't postpone life. Well, sooner or later when the kids grow up or I retire, or I get a job or move out of the house or get married. One of these days, on mañana. You pile enough tomorrows up and you'll find yourself with a collection of empty yesterdays. Here's a father, keeps saying, when things slow down, I'll take my daughter fishing. And she grows up waiting, and then one day she's gone to college. And the window's closed. Living today means doing the small things now, not waiting for the perfect time. Don't blink. Because the Bible says, I will be glad and rejoice in it. Psalm 118 and down in verse 24. So what's Ecclesiastes 2:24 says? Eat and drink and tell yourself your labor is good. If you're cutting down blackberries or putting on roofing or changing diapers or rocking babies or doing your finances, you say, this is what I need to do today. It's a good thing to do. And let's rejoice in it. I am so happy I'm a Christian. I am so thankful to be here with believers. If I wanted to number my days, I want to think about focusing on God, not just the things of this world. Matthew 22:37, love the Lord your God with about 12% of your heart when you get around to it. If you have enough time, provided there aren't other things crowding in. He said, with all your heart. If we're just kind of, well, sort of, I come once in a while. Love God with all your heart. If you're numbering your days, and you say, all right, for me, I'm at day 363. Tomorrow will be 362. I'm okay with that because I want to stay alert. Am I using the days wisely? In Hebrews 12 and in verse 22, he says, fixing your eyes on Jesus. I lost a race in skiing because I was looking around to see how close the guy was behind me, and boom, he goes booming past me. I thought, don't do that. You just look at the goal. Christ is who I want to be like. Christ is who we're trying to emulate. Colossians 3 and verse 2, setting your mind on things above. And so, what are you fretting about? What is capturing your attention or irritating you or making you anxious? And the question that I ask myself and I ask other people fairly regularly, whatever it is, will it matter in 100 years? If it doesn't matter in 100 years, will it matter in 10 years? If you say, well, not really in 10, will it matter in a year? Or am I just irritated with the something? People and life and children and family and spirit is a big deal. Finances, a dent in the car and blah, 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 a burned casserole, that's not a big deal. What am I focusing on is I want to go home. I want to be ready for going home. And then think about, how do you want to spend your time? Teach us to number our days. That is, invest in relationships with God and with others. In 1 Peter 4 and in verse 8, Peter says, above all, of all the other things you can think about, he said, I want you to consider this. Keep fervent in your love for one another, because love covers a multitude of sins. When you're irritated, we say, yeah, but look, they did it. Well, how many times have you messed up? How much patience has God had with you? Oh. So that brings me back to center, because I'm irritated with this over here, but and I tell people regularly, if you need flawless, I don't do flawless. In fact, I don't know anybody that does flawless. I can do pretty good. But the reality is that's almost everybody. And so you're learning to love and tell people you love them. That, well, they should know I love them because I smile or I hang around or say hello or whatever it is. But at the end of life, what really matters is not what we bought, but what we built, the relationships. Tell people you love them. Tell them how much. Tell them why. Tell them why they're important to you. Tell them why they're important to God. Tell them that you're just thrilled that they're here today, because they can't read minds. And you have that opportunity to mentor and to encourage. At funerals, people never talk about, let me tell you about their bank account. Man, they did real good in accounting. Why, their checkbook was always up to date and they had extra in the same. Never. A gazillion years I've been going to memorials. Never one time has somebody said, man, let me tell you how their net worth is. They talk about kindness, perseverance, and love. They made time for others. I was talking to Craig, who very industrious contractor, just retired and just does it on his own, more at his own pace. And he said, all the way through the years, he's 60 now, maybe 62, he said, never went to the family gatherings. I'm always working. A couple of years ago, we had an anniversary, and we were up at Steamboat Springs with the extended family, and he came. He said, I've never missed one since. Because before it was work. But you miss out on family. And so as you think about, and I talk about sometimes, with little kids, I kind of wave to them. I mean, they don't know how to throw a football yet. They don't get my jokes. But if you wait till they're 15, it's too late. So I think about them when they're 5 and they come toddling up and they got peanut butter on their fingers or whatever and they're messy. You give them a hug. Hey, bud, how you doing? Because if they get the sense that you're interested in them and will interact with them at 5, they're apt to believe you're interested and will interact with them when they're 15. But you start young. You invest in people. Sometimes it's older people. Sometimes it's teenagers. You're just telling them, you're really important. I'm so glad I got to know you. And so, how do you number your days to present a heart of wisdom? Is that let God be God. What do you mean by that? Appreciate God's in control. And Proverbs chapter 16 and verse 9, in his heart a man plans his course, but the Lord determines his steps. I tucked in James 4:13. Come you that say today or tomorrow, hey, let me tell you about my plans. Now, on Monday, what I'm going to do is that, and then on Tuesday, the stock market's doing really good. And what's going to happen is, Paul, you don't have a clue, do you? No. Nobody has a clue what's going to happen. And God tells us that, look, we all have our plans, but we need to appreciate that God is in control of everything. John Dorn has a statement. I was chatting with him last night. I said, John, I appreciate your thoughts because he was diagnosed 5 years ago, went in to check on something at the doctor, and they said, wow, how long you had cancer? He said, cancer, I didn't know I had it all. They said, oh, you got double lung cancer. And they said, let's do further tests. Well, this is stage 4. It's in your lungs and in your brain. And I was talking with him several months ago at somebody else's memorial. And I said, John, when you get a diagnosis like that, how do you deal with that? He said, I'm fine. I said, tell me about that. He said, it's not about me. It's never been about me. It blew me away. But that grounded me. I thought, that's how you do it. It's not, oh man, here's what I'm going through and this. He said, it's always been Lisa and the children. I thought, that's it. There it is. It's where our focus is, that God is in control. And so when he says that, that helped me understand. I thought, okay, that something is going to hit all of us. Pneumonia, COVID, a bus, aneurysm, the dreaded Zowie Bowie disease. Who knows? There's something's out there. But if our attitude is, God, you're in control, and I appreciate that. And I'm going to do the best I can, but I leave always the results with you. So how do I number my days? And having that right attitude is be grateful daily. And think about that. In 1 Thessalonians 5 verses 16 through 18, rejoice always, or be joyful always. Pray continually. Give thanks in all circumstances, for this is God's will for you in Christ Jesus. Now, nobody, including me, is happy every single day. Paul, you seem to be. Generally, I am. I'm an upbeat, positive kind of person. Always 26 hours a day. No. But in general, I am. Because I want to have regardless of what happens, I want to have a positive, appreciative attitude about God. And we were talking about the C family, and Glenn C., we'd mentioned him in the adult class. Even when he had cancer, had a short time to live, at 52, his dad, Albert, and I went to see Glenn. And all through his young years, this saying was just part of him. Every day's a good day, and some days are even better. And as we get there at the door, his wife said, look, thank you. So we just wanted to spend a little time with Glenn. She said, he's in a lot of pain, so be thoughtful of that. He comes out dressed very smartly, casual, but neat, cowboy boots, polished. It just looks great. And I learned a long time ago, you don't ask how a person's doing. They're having a hard time. I say, how are you doing today? And I say to Glenn, how are you doing today? And he says, every day is a good day, and some days are even better. I said, Paul, you need to take that to heart. Because that's not just on some, he won the lottery or something. In the toughest of times, he's displaying that attitude. John Dorn, as I would talk with him, he said, as you go through the stuff, he said, I've had dark times. He said, actually, the earlier times are different because it's all scary and new. He said, I would be anxious sometimes, and for me, the worst time was between 3 and 4 in the morning. And it just, I'd get up and I couldn't sleep, and your brain is just racing. And he said, then I begin thinking, everybody has something going on. So I began praying for this person and that person and that person, and I'd relax. Because guess what he's saying? It's not about me. It was about Lisa and the children. Once you can only focus on so many things at once. And when you've taken stock of where you are and how you feel and what you're going to do and kind of thing, you say, now you start focusing on others. Today, I'll be grateful. And then my last point is seek balance. Can you do what that guy does? Yeah, almost. I can stand there. I don't raise my foot as high. I get it just below my knee, but I can balance. But what about in all of life? Paul, if you want to treat yourself as though you have 12 months, are you going to go nutty about it? No, you've got to have balance in how many ever days God gives us. In Ecclesiastes 9 and in verse 10, it said, what your hand finds to do, do it. That is, be present, be engaged with what actually is happening. Well, I'm distracted, I'm reading the paper, I'm fretting about something. When you're doing something, be involved in that something. And he says, do it with all your might. That is, use what you have. Don't wait for perfect timing. I was talking to somebody just within the last day. I said, when I was young, did I stop and take naps and take breaks? And the answer was, yeah, no. Boom, you're out of the starting gate, going on the first car, you want go. How about when you're old? My father worked hard, and I grew up thinking, that's what a man does. And so I didn't want to be seen as a sissy or lazy, so go, overboard. Taken me my whole life to say, Paul, what about a little balance? And so now, guess what I do? When I get tired, I take a break. So here is Craig Miser working on an outbuilding, putting on a new roof on a garden shed. It was leaking all over the tools, this and that. So every once in a while, I say, hey, Craig, I got to tell you something I hadn't told you. It's a big deal. I climb up the ladder where he is. It's coffee break time. It means I needed a coffee break. He might as well get one. We're going along. Man, the temperature got warmer. A couple hours later, I'm tired. I'm hot. And I come out there. I said, hey, Craig, this isn't exactly the way it happened, but I said, Glenda thinks you need a fudge sickle. I said, well, that wasn't actually Glenda that thought it. I thought I needed one, but you might as well have one. So we work a couple more hours. It's, hey, we need one more board. We need to go to Home Depot and get it. I said, on the way, would you be interested in a hamburger? I'd like a hamburger. Now, if you're going out, you've been working all day. It's now something, 1:30 in the afternoon, and you're going to have a hamburger. Would you take the guy that's working for you for free for a McDonald's burger because it's even cheaper, or Jimmy Mac's? Absolutely. So we're there at Jimmy Mac, and that is, there's balance. We're working and working hard and sweating and tired, but it's time to take a break. Enjoy that moment, that time together. And Luke chapter 14 and verse 28 talks about if you're going to build a building, count the cost. In all of life, think about how your using the hours that you have. What's your priority? What's your priority right now? What's your priority this week? Ecclesiastes 12 and verse 1. Remember your Creator in the days of your youth, before the evil days and draw nigh, and the years when you say, I have no delight of it. You just get too busted up and worn out. Because now and today are great Bible words. What do I need to do right now? What's best to do for the rest of today? Okay, Monday, here's the to-dos. And as I talked to Vince a couple of days ago, we're chatting, how's it going? He said, well, I got to dink around the house. Well, I had some blackberry vines to cut back and what. And so as you think about, as I thought about, Paul, if you got 12 months, yesterday, was that important to do? Yes, because whatever, if I have 12 hours or 12 months or 12 years, you got to repair the stuff that's in disrepair, but seek balance with that. And so Proverbs 21 and in verse 20, in the house of the wise there is oil and all precious things, but the foolish swallow it up. And that is, spend less than you earn. So enjoy what there is, but I got to spend it all, then go on the credit card, so I'm now another $40,000 in debt. Now the bank's getting rich and I'm getting poor. Have balance in that. 1 Timothy 6:17, God gives us richly all things to enjoy. So enjoy what there is to enjoy. A long time ago, somebody that Jeff Dillinger and I and Kim would have known, back in the Renton era, there was from my standpoint, this old guy, probably 70 then, Art Zimmerman. And he was getting close to the end of his life. And so we were having a men's class. And I said, Art, he was the oldest guy in the group. And I said, Art, what advice would you give us younger guys? He said, if I had to do it all over again, I would watch more sunrises and sunsets. That is, enjoying what God gives us as we have that time to do it in. And then Mark 6:32, Jesus would tell the apostles, come apart and rest for a while. Take breaks, rest, revitalize. Christians, may God teach us to number our days. Because, man, they go quick. Don't blink. It's been such a joy to share this with you. And I get insights from Vince, from John, and from others. And so, if you're here and not a Christian, we're going to sing this song, Come to Jesus, because he's got the answers. God's the one in control. We're just here for the ride. Brother Ben?